Right. Hey guys. So today, um, Cloud9 won the Elite Major. So we're just gonna get into it. I want to talk about how they're going to do after this tournament, because obviously this tournament was amazing, and the final was great, and it was very romantic. Um, but I think that the question of how they're going to perform after this is interesting. I think it's more interesting than the Gambit one, because when it came to Gambit, they had an easier bracket. They beat Astralis, but it wasn't like they beat all the Titans. Um, they beat, yeah, they beat Astralis, they beat Immortals. It looked good and it was amazing and it was very romantic as well. But they didn't do it in a fashion where I was like, okay, no, this team is going to be, a top team from now on. But when it came to Cloud9, I think whether or not that's the case is a more interesting question. I don't think it's the case that they're guaranteed to become, replace Astralis as one of the top three teams. I don't think this means that they're going to beat FaZe consistently. Um, I think that they're going to have a lot more trouble in tournaments where FaZe have less pressure on them, where Nico performs better, and when they're more willing to take risks and adapt. I think they're going to do much worse. So I don't think that they're going to win every time. But what's interesting to me about this is that if you look at where Cloud9 was before this major, they were a good team. They were placing well consistently, but they could never seem to beat FaZe. And they could never seem to beat the top teams. They beat G2, but G2 isn't a top team. So they beat the below. So they were clearly good. They were clearly a good team, but they weren't quite as good as those other teams. And it didn't even look, in their matches against FaZe, it didn't even look like they had the possibility of beating FaZe, which is why a bunch of people were like, including a bunch of analysts were like, I don't think this final is going to be very good. And to be honest, I didn't. I thought there was a chance that it would be good, but I didn't think that it was likely that this final was going to be anything else but a stomp. To be honest, because what normally happens to Cloud9 when they play FaZe is that they play excellent all across the tournament. They look great and they have great team play, and it all falls apart. It all falls apart as soon as they play a team that has testicular fortitude that goes in and ruins their plans. Just a better team with better individual players. And they struggle. In chaos, they seem to really struggle. They seem to get out. To get crushed, and especially on maps like Train, where there's a lot of tricksy plays that you can make. Olofmeister is obviously famous for doing that. They looked like they were really struggling, and in this turn of events, they looked different. Across the whole tournament, they looked different. They looked way more composed. They looked so versatile on a variety of maps. And now Cloud9 has been like this for a while on CT Mirage. They always have looked really good. For pretty much as long as I can remember on this lineup, they're a really diverse team. They have four people who can hop, three people up on Mirage. So Tim doesn't, but Scott does around window normally. Whenever they want to rush through mid, normally Stewie does it, and then Tarek does it in B apps normally. So they're just very versatile in that way. You can watch a video by Sean Gares that he made recently about the variety of setups that they have and how smart they are at reading those. So super smart team on CT side. But so if you just look at their team play and if you look at their setups on the CT side and all this, they look good. Like they look like a top team. There's nothing stopping them from being as good as FaZe in that department. But I think that what was clear when you looked at the way they played against SK and the way they looked against FaZe is that this was their tournament. Like a few of their players had individual performances that you just don't see out of those players. So Skadoodle is the obvious one, and it wasn't just that Skadoodle was aiming better than he was. In fact, I don't think he was actually aiming better than he normally does, but Skadoodle was playing different. Skadoodle was taking aggressive peeks for information. He was standing, very confidently in bathrooms and overpass. Like he was just standing around, confident when flanking. It reminded me of the way that Tarek ops around B apps. He was just staying alive, but he was staying alive while getting information. He wasn't getting smoked out. He was playing very assertive, confident, and slightly risky Counter-Strike. And that's something that historically, famously, we haven't seen out of Skadoodle, and something that I criticize Skadoodle for, because look at how different it looks when he plays this way. What I'm wondering is whether Skidoo is going to play this way forever. Now, he had some particularly good clutches. Cloud9 had a lot of good clutches from Skadoodle, and Skadoodle's always been a good clutcher, but obviously you're not going to see that all the time. You can't rely on those to win every tournament. Look at what happened with Zipex at the E-League Major and how many tournaments Astralis won after that. Sometimes they don't go your way. Look at their finals against FaZe, when they lost on Inferno. I think it was IM Katowice, when they're just, they probably were the better team, but the clutches didn't go their way. And, you can imagine a world in Cloud9 plays exactly the same way, but they lose a couple clutches, and then they lose the match. So that can't be relied on. What comforts to me is that, at least on Inferno, Cloud9 looked like the better team. And Nico was playing well in that game, so that was good. That was comforting. But what wasn't is how they got stomped on CT side while they were on CT side of Mirage. That's not a good sign for them at all, because that's their strongest side on any map, in my opinion. So that's worrying. But if Skadoodle can play like that, the thing is, I don't think it's likely that he does, because Skadoodle's been playing for 4 years now, probably maybe 5 years. And Skadoodle has historically not been this assertive. I think that it was a case of will to power. Like, he really wanted to dominate that. He really wanted to make his mark, and he didn't want to lose the opportunity to win. And so he was so allured by the fact that he was going to win that he made more decisive plays. That would be my guess, considering his play style, because there's been other situations where the stakes are high, but they're not quite this high, and Skadoodle plays differently. So, he was top fragging first team in a lot of these maps, and I don't think you're going to see that out of Skadoodle again. And so that's going to hurt his team a little bit. That's just the way the Skadoodle plays. If you're going to keep him on this team, that's how he's going to perform. So, that's going to hurt him a bit. The other one is Tarek. But before I talk about Tarek, I'm going to talk about why I'm excluding the other one. So, first, Rush didn't do amazing this tournament in terms of stats or anything. Rush actually whiffed a couple things that he probably should have hit. But overall, Rush played the way that you would expect him to. Very smart, very composed, excellent around the A side of Inferno. With Tarek, you can expect that out of him. He's good for that. He's not good for 30 frags or something like that. If you saw that out of Rush at this tournament, that would be concerning for Cloud9 moving forward, because I don't think that you could expect that out of him. But he didn't, so that's nice. In terms of sustainability, I think that's good for them. He's a good player, but you're not going to expect that much out of him. And I don't think he overperformed. I don't think Automatic overperformed. We've seen tournaments where Automatic goes crazy, and I don't think this was one of them. Like, Automatic had a lot of bad plays where he missed a spray. There were a few where he just whiffed sprays, like that on Inferno, and 2 different maps on Inferno, one against SK and one B site against FaZe, where he was just whiff sprays. So I don't think Automatic played very well. I think he played well, but I don't think he played abnormally well, or once every 3 months kind of well. I think he played about the level that you can expect out of him. And Stewie played well. Stewie had amazing clutches. But statistically, I don't think that he did amazing at all, actually. I'd have to check. Yeah, I can check right now. But I don't think that he did that amazing in terms of stats. And Stewie, what's interesting about Stewie is that he has a ton of highlight plays. He's a super aggressive player, and that's super exciting. And, he's a very important player in Cloud9. But he isn't a superstar in terms of numbers. No, he does. He does a lot because of his aggressive plays. So, if you look at his record in top events, he's not good for that many kills. So, okay, plus 21 in 13 maps with a 7.4 KDR and 0.8 DPR. So that's a little high, especially not in terms of kills. That's pretty normal. But in terms of deaths, that's quite low for Stewie. I would expect something higher in top tier tournaments, probably something around 0.72, 0.70. So that's a little that's a little low, but not crazy low. You're gonna have good tournaments, you have bad tournaments, and the oscillation isn't so great that I think that it would make a difference between Cloud9, being a top 4 team and being a top 8 team or something like that. Tarek is the one that played just so well this tournament. In a few maps, especially around the A side of Inferno, I think that's the site. CT Mirage and the A side Defensive Inferno are what won Cloud9 this major, and in large part it came through big time for them against SK and against FaZe. I think that was incredible. What he did, especially against SK, he was incredible. But he had a few moments against FaZe as well. And Tarek is a really good player. He's actually been the best player statistically for Cloud9 across the stretch with his roster, which is impressive, given the fact that he does call quite a bit for this team. But I don't think he's this good. In terms of, I think that Tarek overperformed would be rude, I think, because I don't think that he was lucky. I think that he earned everything that he did, but he did play over his average level, I would say. If you look at over the tournament, he had a 0.78 kills per round, and he had a 0.65 deaths per round. Unless you think that Tarek is going to become a player that frags on the degree of Coldzera or on the degree of Simple or Nico, which I don't. But if you think you do, then you think this is fine. I think this is abnormal. I think that you can expect, 0.72, 0.71 kills per round from him. Excellent player, a really, really useful player for Cloud9. Super important, not quite this good. So what does that all mean? Well, if Cloud9 were carried by individuals, if they played a puck style and all this, then this would be a very bad sign. Because this would be like, G2 winning this tournament. Something where you're like, okay, well now we know that, like G2, when everything goes right, they can win. But that doesn't mean that their style is sustainable. But if you look at the way that they play, I actually think it is sustainable. I think that they're going to play at a lower level than they're doing now, but they're still going to be a stronger team than you saw out of them beforehand. So I think that they're still going to get top 4s, top 8s. I think they're good for that. And sometimes they're going to beat those really good teams. They're going to beat whoever the next Astralis is. They're going to beat FaZe. Maybe beat SK with bolts. We'll see about that. But it's definitely possible. Cloud9 across their history haven't been terrible against SK, surprisingly. So I think that they play a very team play-based game. So they're really good at covering people's aggression with grenades, supporting them, and supporting people while they're making aggressive plays. Someone making a really aggressive off-peak and then just getting flashed right after to make sure they can escape from anyone going for an immediate re-peak after the op shot comes through. Something like that. Super useful, supporting someone making a mid-push on CT Mirage, for example. They're really good at doing stuff like that. They're really good at supporting each other through utility use, maintaining utility use later in the game, and they just have a great understanding of how to support each other. That's reminiscent of G2, but it's also reminiscent of teams like Mouse, other upcoming teams. And I think it's interesting that all these teams are coming through right now. It's also reminiscent of 2015 Fnatic, actually. And what's interesting is that unlike another Dark Horse team that has tons of firepower like Mouse, this team is actually not terrible at mid-round calls. I wouldn't say that they're awesome. I wouldn't say that they had a bunch of great reads, but they're definitely not paranoid. They have a lot of composure in their calls. Whoever is making those calls, they're doing a good job. I think that they're solid in that department, and they have good CT setups, and they're really good at varying it up or switching things up. They're so versatile in what they do. On their T side as well, they're very versatile. They have differences in pace. I think that they have a tendency to play a little slower than I would like, but who am I to say for that? I'm not the right guy for that. But I think that I think they're good for being a top 5 team in the world, top 6 team in the world, pretty much exactly where they were before in terms of placings, except you'll see the occasional Dark Horse placing. So I'd compare them to a more consistent G2, at least the G2 we've seen in the last year, where they might win a tournament, they might win 2 tournaments, but I don't think that they're going to win tournaments regularly. I'd love for them to prove me wrong. That'd be great. But I think that their individuals, peaked at the right time, and that you can't expect them to beat FaZe on a regular basis. I think that's going to be pretty tit for tat, and I would think, given the previous performances that it's going to be a little more dominant, especially on some maps on the side of FaZe. I'd still bet Cloud9 to win Mirage most of the time. I think it's weird that they didn't, but I wouldn't think that, like, what are the odds that Cloud9 beats them again on Overpass? You know what I mean? Like, that kind of thing. Skadoodle playing like a maniac, I don't think you're going to see that. So, I think that, or not see that consistently, anyway. So I think they're good for, top fours, sometimes finals, a trophy here and there. But I think that it's great that you have this NA team, because I think that this team has learned to play the way that you would want a super skilled team to play, which is relying on teamwork, relying on versatile, aggressive plays, but also an ability to play tactically, and an ability to do set executes and switch between the two, and adjust their play style and read what the opponent is doing. And I don't know if that's Valens, I don't know if that's Stu and Automatic helping Tarek call, I don't know if that's just Tarek. They're doing a really good job of that. And the fact that they learned how to play that way gives them a lot more sustainability than I would expect out of Gambit, for example, or out of even G2 last year, where I think that their performances were relying a little more on how the person was feeling that day and a little less on what they were actually doing in the server. So I think this is a good team. I think this might be the best NA team that you've seen out of. And I think that they're going to be one of the top teams. And I think it's exciting to see an NA team be like this, because they're going to be playing against Liquid all the time. And I hope that Liquid rises to this level as well, because they absolutely can. And I think that's exciting. So, congrats to Cloud9 for winning, and I'm excited to see them in the future. They're going to be one of the most exciting teams to watch for the next while, and I hope that they find a way to, keep working after this major, stay motivated, and keep this level of play in terms of everything else that they're doing except for their individual performances. And if they do that, then I'm sure they'll find some good placings in the future. Anyway, so that's just me ranting about it, having some thoughts, and hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you want some more irregular thoughts, but have a lovely day. And if you watched the major, that was fucking amazing, and if you didn't watch it, it was fucking amazing. Alright, bye.